doing my memoirs. And this is back in 1980 when I was doing my memoirs, um, starting with my crow Larry. And this is about a picnic. And I'll let you know I'm going to jump around a bit on some of my stories. So let me warn you, I may bring you back. And I always say this because reading my memoirs can be it's not linear, but I guess that's the way I think. So, okay, well, this is called The Picnic. One nice summer day, my Mormon neighbor came over and asked me if they could use our picnic table. I said, I think so, but we'll call husband first. Apparently, they were having guests and wanted to entertain. When they got our okay, they asked, would we like to join them in the picnic? We had no reason to say no. I asked, may we bring a hot dish? She looked perplexed and quickly said, no, the table is good. We will provide the food. I later realized not everyone knew what a hot dish was. They didn't know what they were missing. Cream of mushroom soup and tater tots with green beans was my go-to dish. I had many others with cream of soups. Chow mein delight, a hamburger hot dish with cream broccoli soup, instant rice, water chestnuts, and chow mein noodles sprinkled on the top. Hot dish recipes came from my grandma's recipe card. She died and went to heaven, discovering polyester pantsuits, wigs, and best of all, one dish meal called hot dish. Saving energy and time, she could enjoy her gardening, knitting, socializing, sewing crafts, nothing like wrinkle-free polyester. No ironing, and it looked pressed and very comfortable. Grandma was styling. She had a different color pantsuit and didn't have to mess with nylons. Her many dresses in her cedar-lined closet were hanging neglected, no longer wanted. Saving money and time by wearing a wig replaced her perms and wave curlers. Once in a while, her wig was on crooked in her rush out the door. Frozen bread replaced her time-consuming bread making. The best food I ever ate to this day is my grandma's homemade bread. They say prisoners were given bread and water daily. Well, they could live on my grandma's bread. Her bread was packed with freshly milled wheat that was grown in their fields and milled at the Salo Grain Elevator, a farmer's co-op. That taste is still in my memory. I still see her with a scarf tied over her head, her bib apron, and covered with flour, as she sifted it in her huge metal bowl on her lap. She gave me her recipe, which included a little sugar, but I didn't come close. Her loaves were tall and had a nutty taste. You didn't need anything on the bread. I hope when I pass to the other side, I get to have that bread again. Sorry, I digress. Back to my story. Needless to say, the visitors happened to be young men in suits, Mormon missionaries. I exchanged looks with husband and made the best of it. Polite chatter about weather, the antique cars collected by the neighbor, food, babies, and then quietly my friend asked if we had any questions about God and the Mormon religion. We squirmed, and I thought about asking them how many wives they would like to have, but I bit my tongue for my friend's sake. I swear to this day, at that moment, Larry dive-bombed them. We apologized profusely, happy to solve our dilemma of hurting their feelings that they were forced to take cover after a couple of hair-raising swoops, barely touching their hair, with loud caws. Larry shooed them out of his domain. Thank you for inviting us. We are so sad we couldn't visit longer. I wonder about how intuitive the crow is, and possibly he did not like our reaction. Crows are keen observers. We were immature in our mid-20s and not as curious and conditioned into our Minnesota Lutheran upbringing. so thankful for Larry. So I think I'm just gonna, let me see. Okay, I'll finish this. Cable moved to the Midwest, so we moved to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. We packed up the moving truck. I cleaned our rental. I cleaned the oven, and everything was move-in spotless. I was madder than a hatter because we did not get back our deposit. We did all our upkeep, including fixing the washing machine. Larry knew. I think he knew we were leaving. I tried calling him to say goodbye. I was sad, but knew he was independent. 5 years later, we left our young kids with grandparents and visited my dad, Aunt Dolores, and Jeff's cousins, and traveled to our home, and we were shocked to discover the homes were gone. Our neighbor with the free-range children and Larry's tree, we called him and brought a can of dog food. We tapped the can of dog food. No Larry. We really wanted to see him again. I hope he raised many little crow Larrys. We wanted to check out Mount St. Helens. The ash was still everywhere. On our way to Mount Rainier, the ash was a foot deep in places. Plants were pushing through. It was a harrowing ride in our car up the mountain to the volcano on Mount St. Helens. Winnebagos were lined up the narrow dirt road without a shoulder, and lucky I wasn't afraid of heights because the view from my car window was steep cliffs. We inched by each other and finally made it to the volcano. Helen was still smoking. There was no evidence of a lake. The pines radiated like toothpicks from the blast. 5 years later, there were plants pushing up through the gray ash, blooming. And I'm going to say it was a good visual for our lives. The next year we broke up, and devastation, like the volcano blast, ripped through our lives. I didn't believe in divorce for the kid's sake, but he was violent and hurled an oak chair at me. The force was like the blast. It knocked me into the wall. He ran off realizing what he had done. He lost his temper and could not control it. I cried more for the breakup of our family than his abuse towards me. I was the perfect mom. This could not be happening. My kids were so sad. I was afraid of him because he had a violent streak. It surprised me. 9 years together, and I never thought he was capable of domestic violence. He had friends who were addicted. I wonder if that may have affected him. In hindsight, both of us were immature and had dysfunctional families. We were not capable of communicating to each other. That was the main problem. I wish we would have pursued counseling. I was too afraid. I moved home to Mom's with my kids. This was very dark, hard times for all of us. Hard for my parents, too. My children were upset, and I wasn't in the best mood. We did make an attempt to get back together, but we had a date going to the movies. He was strange to me, and we picked up the kids and Grandma, and he ran around to the back door of the car to grab my son out of his car seat. I drove off with the car door open. I stopped down the block at the police station for protection. There was something off about him. He moved to northern Minnesota and started a business repairing electronic equipment. So, anyways, I'm going to stop right here. This was a very hard time in my life. I guess we can't all be happy all the time. And part of my memoirs will be the valleys. You have the peaks and the valleys. It's a very hard time for me. And I'm back home in my mom's house and with kids in tow, no real income. And it was a very fearful time for me. And I prayed, and I'll tell you about how I prayed and some prayers were answered. So I'll let you go now, but sorry for this sad story, but that is life. And maybe the next story won't be so sad, but I will continue this, so thank you.